Hi, my name is Leia. If you're new here, this is going to be a little bit different than what my usual videos are like. This is going to be more of a sit-down video because I wanted to go through all of my reading goals that I set for myself in 2025 and how I did, and then maybe what I want to do moving forward in 2026. As of January 2025, I had 70 books on my bookshelf. And that was just a product of me not really having much self-control and buying as many books as I wanted whenever I wanted. And last year, I kind of got to a point where I didn't want to do that anymore. It was starting to stress me out, the amount of books that I had on my shelf. So I made the decision that I was going to put myself on a book buying ban. And I was not going to buy any more books until I had finished reading every single book that was on my shelf. So New Year's resolution number 1 was book buying ban. No more new books until all the books on my shelf were read and completed. New Year's resolution 2, I had 70 books on my shelf last year, and so my reading goal was also to read 70 books. And then the third goal was that I wanted to start a YouTube channel documenting my reading journey. And to make it like more fun and entertaining, I decided to wrap the books in brown paper and number them, and then use a number generator to randomly select the book that I was going to read, and then I'd make vlogs about it and post it on YouTube. And again, if you are interested in watching those videos, they are up on my channel. Maybe while you're there, you could also like them. And then you could also even subscribe to my channel if you're interested. Those were kind of the goals I had set for 2025. In terms of achieving them, I feel like I started off January with this like really strict and rigid mindset. I didn't really give myself a whole lot of wiggle room. And so I think that is part of the reason why I like failed my reading goals, so to speak. So I did not read 70 books. I actually only read 53 this year. I don't know the exact number, to be honest with you, but I want to say it's like around half of the books that I read this year were books on my shelf. I didn't buy new books for myself. I did accumulate some physical books if they were like gifted to me, for example. Yeah, I didn't do great in terms of my goals. I did start my YouTube channel though, so I did document me reading those books. Like I said before, I think that the goals that I set for myself were pretty ambitious. So I'm definitely going into 2026 with more realistic goals. I do feel like I learned a lot about myself and a lot about my relationship with reading and also buying books. I feel like this is a conversation I've been seeing a lot online, just about like overconsumption and gamifying hobbies like reading. And I think I definitely subscribe to both of those things in the past. And so in 2025, I feel like I was kind of trying to like undo that mentality. And I do think that forcing myself to focus on the books that I have with me, it honestly made me realize how much I was being influenced by the books that people were posting online. I would see a book that I just like recognized and I would just buy it. I wouldn't know what the book was about. There would be an instance where I saw like one person talk about that book online and I would just like impulsively buy it without questioning whether or not I actually wanted to read it, which is kind of insane. I think a big part of my desire to book buy is like new releases and books that a lot of people are talking about online. And it's like you get this weird FOMO because it feels like everyone's reading this book, everyone's talking about it, you want to be a part of the conversation. And so, I don't know, I think it's just kind of hard sometimes to parse out whether or not I'm actually interested in reading the book, or if I've just consumed so much media about that book that I feel like I want to read it, which is also why I don't like having a lot of books on my shelf, because there are a lot of books behind me I do not want to read anymore because I bought it like over a year ago. Because that's the other thing too. I do thrift a lot of my books because the books are so much cheaper. I'm more inclined to just buy it. Oh, that's $1. I can afford that, so I might as well buy it. I think it's like very easy for me to like cross over that threshold. I need to get into the habit of like picking it up and being like, do I actually want to read this, or is it $1? I just feel like in general, this entire year taught me to be more inquisitive about my purchases. Something else I realized about myself at the beginning of the year is when I was setting my goals at the beginning of the year, I feel like it was weirdly coming from this place of like self-punishment where I was like, you got yourself into this mess, so now this is what you have to do to get yourself out. Coming out the other end of it, I realized how weird that is and how unproductive it is. And I think there were multiple times this year where I would kind of get burnt out from reading because I was turning it into work and I was turning it into this chore instead of something that like I actually enjoy. And I just think I'm at a place where I'm like giving myself more grace to make mistakes. And so that being said, getting into my goals for next year, I still want to like maintain the overall goal of dwindling down the books on my shelf because I really do want to get to a place where every book I own, I have read. So that's still what I'm aiming for in 2026, but I want to do it a little bit differently. So now getting into my resolutions for this year. I think 70 books was a bit ambitious. So I'm bringing that number back down to 60. I also really don't care about the number of books I read. I'm kind of just setting a number just to set a number. If I meet the goal, I meet it, but if not, I don't think I'm really going to be that heartbroken about it. My overall goal is to still read all the books on my shelf. So I think that's like my highest priority. And in order to do so, I'm going to maintain my book buying ban. So I really am going to try not to buy any more books until that shelf is at 0. And I still want to do a reading vlog of me reading through my TBR. However, I think instead of keeping the books wrapped up and numbered, I want to unwrap them because part of the books are wrapped, some of them aren't wrapped, and it's just kind of confusing. I thought the concept of unwrapping them would be fun, but I feel like now I'd rather just have them all unwrapped. I want to enter in the title of the book in a spinner and just randomly select it that way. So I think I'm going to change up the way I am doing my video series, but I still want to have my books be randomly selected. I think it's more fun that way. I'm also really bad at making decisions, so it's kind of nice to just not really get a choice. Okay, I had to take a brief intermission because my microphone died and I ate soup. Anyway, I think I'm going to go through all of the books on my shelf and I'm going to get rid of the ones that I don't want to read anymore. I think if you told Leia from last year that I was going to unhaul books that I haven't read, she would have an aneurysm. But I'm healed now, and I think a lot of my goals require me practicing a lot of self-control and a lot of self-restraint. You know, I'm not buying new books. I'm only reading the books that I own. I'm not even choosing the books that I'm going to read. Those are going to be randomly selected. And so I think the least that I could do for myself is keep books on my TBR that I'm actually excited to read about. I think a couple other things I'm going to do to really set myself up for success is I'm going to cancel my Kindle Unlimited subscription. I feel like I was using Kindle Unlimited as like this loophole for me to read books that I wanted to read, but I was like, but I'm not technically cheating because I'm not buying any new books. I'm just reading books that I have accessible to me through my Kindle Unlimited. I also think I don't use it enough to justify paying for it anymore. Like, I feel like at this point I'm probably wasting money. I think that's it in terms of all of my 2026 goals. Now, what I'm going to do is go through my shelf and I'm going to unwrap all those books and then probably just do a quick book unhaul to see how many books I'm going to have left for me to read in this upcoming year. Okay, so I went through all my books. These are the ones that I'm going to be unhauling. A Gentleman in Moscow, I thrifted this book, and I feel like this book could be good, but since I bought it, I discovered that the premise was just this older man stuck in a hotel room. And from a personal enjoyment standpoint, I don't think I would really like this, so I will be getting rid of this one. Listen for the Lie. I also thrifted this book. I realized this year that I don't really like thrillers. The only reason I bought it is because it was cheap and I recognized the cover, so I'm going to give this away as well. A Picture of Dorian Gray. I also thrifted this, and I know for a fact the only reason I bought it is because it was 99 cents. Not to say I'll never read this book ever, but I'm just not interested in reading it in this moment in time. I also have this like annoying thing where I want all of my classics to match. So I buy the signature classic edition of books. So in the future, if I ever do decide to read A Picture of Dorian Gray, I would rather own that specific version of this book. Eleanor and Park, you guessed it, I also thrifted this. And the only reason I did is because it had a Pulitzer. It was the only reason I bought it. And that it was cheap and I could afford it. It's a young adult romance. Again, I'm sure this is a great book. Like, clearly it won a Pulitzer. I just have no interest in reading a young adult book. Anyway, that will be going. Next, I have Powerless and also Powerful by Lauren Roberts. These books are the only ones in the stack that I paid full price for, unfortunately. This one, I have a harder time letting go of just because I paid the full amount for these. I know a lot of people like them and they were really blowing up on TikTok when I purchased them. I have just since seen a lot of creators that have similar book taste as me really not like these. I've also heard that it is very similar to The Hunger Games and also Red Queen. I think in general, I'm not interested in a young adult romantasy. I don't know. I just haven't heard great things. I don't think this will work for me anymore. It's just one of those things where I bought it just because it was popular online without really taking the time to consider if I actually am interested in reading it myself. So it sucks I paid full price for them, but at least I am donating them. So hopefully they go to someone that actually wants to read them. And lastly, I have two books by Mitch Albom. I have A Stranger in the Lifeboat and For One More Day. Earlier this year, I read Five People You Meet in Heaven by Mitch Albom, and I didn't really like it. I actually bought 4 Mitch Albom books at one time. I was at a thrift store and I saw Tuesdays with Morrie, which that is one book that I will be keeping and I do really want to read. I purchased Tuesdays with Morrie and then I saw 3 other Mitch Albom books and was like, oh, I might as well buy every single book by Mitch Albom at the store while I'm buying Tuesdays with Morrie. Again, just like absolutely no thought, just run my credit card. So I'm feeling a little apprehensive towards Mitch. I just feel like it's something with his tone for me. I just don't like his tone. And so I don't think I'll enjoy these. That being said, those are all the books that I am going to donate. That was 8 books in total that I'm taking away from my shelf. And so I'm now starting off 2026 with only 32 books on my shelf, which is really exciting. I feel like that is such a doable number to read. I have 32 books. I will say, though, it's going to be a little bit over 32 because some of the books that I own are a part of a series. So, for example, I have My Brilliant Friend by Elena Ferrante. If I read that book and I'm really, really enjoying it, I will continue to read that series. That will be kind of like the exception to my book buying ban because I don't want to read a book and then have to wait 6 months before I read the sequel. So I think that's it for today. I hope this video inspired you to set some reading goals for yourself next year and to even maybe challenge some of your reading and spending habits. But thank you so much for watching and I will see you next time.